In tonight's episode, we are going to discuss challenges in residential treatment centers. Good evening, everyone. Facebook family. Welcome to another episode of Post Daily Dose with me, your trusted parenting advisor, faithful guide and servant on the healing journey. What's my name? Big Papa Brian Post, baby. All right. Hope everyone has had a fantastic day. It is Monday night, and we are kicked off to a wonderful week. So I hope everyone's doing well. Woke up this morning. If you were on the morning motivation, had a nice little crew on morning motivation. That was nice. I had a message in one of our message feeds from Judy Reeves. Judy is with the Children's Village in Coeur d'Alene. I don't have any idea how to pronounce that. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So I want to say what's up to the residential treatment staff at the Children's Village there in Idaho. Thank you for writing in with some of your issues that you're facing. Gives Big Papa some good things to talk about, and that's what we're going to talk about this evening. And good evening to you, Mama. I just saw my beautiful Mama pop up there. So Judy asked me if I could talk about hygiene challenges, restroom challenges, soiling themselves, children soiling themselves, and I absolutely can talk about those things. So you guys know I've been on this. Hey, Lisa. You guys know I've been on this breaking free of the parenting matrix kick. This is like my new thing. I'm becoming a little obsessed with it, actually. I'm going to actually watch the whole movie The Matrix again, and that's probably going to just give me this whole new deep dive. I might even do that this evening. I just made myself a cup of coffee. I've been craving a cup of coffee for the last 3 hours, and I made it. Oh, it's so good. And I'm probably going to be buzzing until 10:30 tonight, and then I got to go to bed because I got to get up at 3:30 again. Hello, Bethany. Good evening. So, the parenting matrix, I refer to as they, and they are the powers that want to keep you behaving and believing the same thing. A little Facebook message pop up. They want to keep you behaving and believing the same thing. If they can keep you believing the same thing, they can keep you behaving in the same way. And I call it the parenting matrix because that's kind of our thing. We're focused on parenting when we're talking with one another. But really, it expands to all things children in so many ways, and especially residential treatment centers. So when I talk about being inside the matrix, I'm talking about the dominant belief system of society. So inside the parenting matrix is being inside the dominant belief of society. So there's this hamster wheel, and that hamster wheel is society's dominant beliefs. And if society can keep you running, Ashley, if society can keep you running on that hamster wheel, guess where it keeps you? Keeps you in place. You don't go anywhere. You just keep running and running and running and running on that hamster wheel. And those dominant beliefs have been passed down for generations and generations and generations. And I've talked to you guys extensively, just even for me, at 45 years old, thinking all the way back to kindergarten, when my friend Clint Dotson was tied to a chair to get him to sit still. And then first grade, there was the naughty corner, and then there was the dunce chair, and it was putting your nose in the corner. All of those things 40 years later, they're called timeout. And then it's behavior modification, or it's consequences, or it's spanking, or it's grounding, or it's isolation. And then, in the 80s, we started introducing medications for behavior control. Medications for behavior control. And then, we just continue to kind of start piling on more and more diagnosis when it comes to children. All of that is the matrix. You're inside the matrix. That's how that matrix functions. So all of these dominant beliefs that surround you regarding, your family life, and your way you interact with your children. That's all matrix style conditioning. And this is fundamentally why many of our children, and I can speak to this more as someone coming from a background of trauma, and working with children who've experienced trauma, as many of you have, but it really, it invades all levels of children and families and parenting and relationship. We can talk about trauma, and actually, quite frankly, trauma is that's the easy one. Because I can show you and tell you how your child's brain is shaped and is more sensitive, and show you how the dominant belief, the dominant practices, the dominant beliefs, and those practices of those dominant beliefs create more stress for your children, and therefore your children just end up growing older but not growing better. See, with the traumatized children, I can have an easier time doing that than with just biological children who've come from some semblance of healthy development. But I honestly, quite frankly, I believe that all of us have experienced trauma, just at different levels on the continuum. And if your child happens to be fortunate enough to have not experienced the loss of a loved one, a depressed parent, an emotionally absent parent, being sent away to private school, divorce, alcoholism, functional alcoholism, chronic use of antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. I'm saying if your child has been fortunate enough to avoid those things, which most children haven't. Those are just basic things, not even affecting the child. I mean, not affecting the child directly. Those are the things, the environment that surrounds that child. Not to mention the traumas at school. I had a friend, I'll give you a little personal story, who I would have said, growing up, he was one of my best friends, I would have said he probably came from one of the most regulated homes that I knew of at that time. His family, his parents were well off. His dad was a retired physician. They were farming. He was more of a gentleman farmer. He worked very hard. He had 5 sisters, and they lived in a big 2-story log cabin. And I mean, they just had kind of an idealistic family growing up. But there was undercurrents of some real rigid, punitive thinking going on, especially with the father. And I just remember this one incident. Me and my buddy, we had our BB guns. We were out shooting whatever moved, and we happened to be shooting. We shot at a horse a couple times, at a horse. Now, mind you, these were with Daisy BB guns. Okay, you could watch the BB travel out of the end of the BB gun. My friends and I used to have BB gun fights. So we would shoot each other with these BB guns. So the likelihood that it would do anything other than startle the horse was next to none. And so we were playing cowboys and Indians, and the horse was some kind of wild beast or something. We may have shot it in the butt a time or two. And his dad came along, and I think his sisters, my friend's sisters, told on us, and his dad came and he got upset with us. And so he was marching us back to the house, and he started, he's walking right behind us. He starts cocking the BB gun and shooting my friend in the back. Now, he had a coat on, but he's shooting him in the back with the BB gun and in the back of his legs. And I know it hurt. I mean, the guy is 2 feet away from my friend. Thank God he didn't shoot me. I'd have freaked out. I was freaking out because he was sitting there shooting my buddy. And he's mad at us because we were shooting at a horse. We probably never even hit the freaking horse. And we were at least 20 feet away from the dang thing. But he's firing this BB gun at his son. And I'm like, oh, what the heck's going on? So even in the most seemingly regulated households, there's still generational imprints and generational matrix style programming that goes into the way we relate to our children. And so I say all of that because there's no difference between a home and a residential treatment center. When a child gets sent, especially a child with trauma, gets sent from their home to a residential treatment center, the residential treatment staff become the regulated figure in that child's life. Just like in the home, the parents are the regulatory figure in the child's life. When the child transitioned to residential, the residential staff become the regulatory figure in the child's life. And they have every bit as much responsibility in the repair of that child's trauma, in the need to establish relationship with that child, as the parents do. Because in that role, they are it. They are the adults charged with helping this child's brain to repair and creating regulation, sustained regulation, and reinforcement, positive reinforcement, and helping this child learn to trust adults. One of the slides I always teach in my lectures, these are common events involved in regulatory difficulties. Common traumatic events involved in regulatory difficulties. And I put a period because it essentially means if these things have happened in the span of your life, you're going to have difficulties regulating your system. Period. And there's all the abuses, the physical abuses, emotional abuses, sexual abuses, frequent moves, adoption, foster care, depression, emotional absence. There's a whole list. And then I always say, now, what do all these things have in common? Well, I click my little clicker and my PowerPoint turns, and what they all have in common is that they all occur in the context of human relationships, which means in the child's brainstem, human relationships in the midst of stress are not safe. So if a child is in their home and they don't feel safe and their behaviors continue to escalate from stress and fear, they're going to go to residential treatment. They're not going to feel safe. That's going to be the same thing. They're going to get triggered. Adults are not going to be safe, and that's going to be the lens to which they look upon the world. And when the child moves to residential treatment, now it is the role and responsibility of the residential treatment staff to create regulation and relationship for this child. And so everything I talk about, even right down to even the therapist has an ethical and moral responsibility, a humanistic responsibility to the child to be more self-aware enough to be able to connect when the child is struggling and the child is trying to grow in residential treatment. So it's just like this ongoing thing. But there's some behavior challenges that Judy brought up. One being hygiene. I'll tell you another story about this. So we had this young man in one of our group homes. He's 16 years old, and we had him over. We used to live on the beach, and so I'd always bring all the boys over to the house so they could run up and down the beach and, just pretty much terrorize the neighbors. The neighbors would just freak out because we had these group home kids over there. This is kind of a snooty, uppity neighborhood, and they wanted to be hippies, but really they were uptight, anxious, just not very nice people. So then it made me want to bring the boys over even more. And so I'd bring the boys over and we'd have this little beach shack. I mean, literally it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath little shack. And the front yard was all sand because we lived right on the Chesapeake Bay. And so we had this couple kids over one day. And one young man, he's 16. He went in the bathroom and I went in the bathroom a short time after him, and, he had peed all over the rim. But he had also peed in the shower. And so hey, Kirsten, good evening. I have a funny story about Kirsten and her husband. I'll have to tell you guys one of these days. So he had peed in the shower. And, most of the time, parents would completely freak out over that. But here's what you have to understand. You're only going to freak out if you're operating within the matrix, because the matrix is going to tell you this kid did all this stuff because, he was the reactive attachment disorder people back in the day. They'd be like, children will pee in places and unconsciously what they're really trying to tell you is they're trying to pee on you. Oh my gosh. What a statement of absolute distortion. Oh my goodness. So therapists would try to convince parents that just when a kid would pee in the corner of his room, it's because he was trying to, he was telling the parents that he was peeing on them, which really had nothing to do with that. So anyway, not operating inside the matrix, I, handled my business, went out and I said, hey, Ronald, could you come in here for a minute? I had something I want to show you. So we walk into the bathroom and I said, Bud, when you use a bathroom in here, I want you to pee inside the toilet. Okay? And if you make a mess, you get the toilet paper off, right? And I do this. I'm showing him. And I'm showing a 16-year-old, but I'm showing him like he is 4. Because emotionally he is 4. Because he came from an environment of neglect. And he had been institutionalized most of his life. So the likelihood that Ronald ever had anyone actually show him hand over hand how to just use the bathroom, and if he made a mess, what to do for it. Maybe they had, I doubt it. He probably got punishment for it in the past. And I said, you wipe the toilet off when you pee on the toilet, and you always put the seat down. I said, now, Ronald, and I pulled the shower curtain back. I said, when you're in the shower and you're taking a shower, it is okay to pee in the shower. Just make sure you wash it all down. But, Bud, when you've got a toilet right here and you're not actually in the shower taking a shower, don't pee in the shower because it'll make a bad smell. So because you peed in the shower, I'm going to turn the water on. I'm going to wash it on down the drain. But in the future, only pee in the shower if you're taking a shower. Otherwise, pee in the toilet. We good? And you should have seen the look on his face because it is intermittently mortified, relieved, thankful, and ashamed all at the same time. It's just an interesting look. And he shakes his head, yes. And I said, cool, get out of here. And he left. And that was it. That was it. Never do I remember having another incident at our house or even in the group home with Ronald doing that. And it just took that one time. So the reason I tell you that is because Judy was asking him about the question. The children you all are serving, many of these children are so stressed out the majority of the time. Number one, they're so stressed out the majority of the time, they are regressed. And when they are regressed back to their developmental age. And I just talked about this the other day. When they're regressed at their developmental age, that means they're emotionally regressed. Emotionally, that's where they're at. They're not at their chronological age. They're not at their cognitive age. They're at their emotional age. They have an emotional brain. They have emotional physicality at that age. The emotional brain dictates to the cognitive brain. So when you start thinking about these children who have these hygiene issues, maybe they're pooping in their pants or they pee on themselves, you've got to stop, number one, thinking that these children are doing it intentionally or because they're not very smart or because they don't care. It's none of that. It's because developmentally, the environment that they came from, the early environment they came from, it's probably not the home that they just came from. It's probably the early environment that still has the influence, especially when they're stressed, is sending them back to that emotional age. And as soon as you can get off the hamster wheel of the matrix and step outside of that wheel, which in a lot of ways is stepping outside of yourself. You're no longer taking it personally. You're inquisitive. You're curious. See, every opportunity like this, it's a new opportunity to teach a child something new. You can then take that child hand over hand and begin the process of teaching them again how to go to the bathroom. See, you could have a 15-year-old child who's peeing himself because his circadian rhythms have been damaged by trauma. And if his circadian rhythms, his suprachiasmatic nucleus, his CNS in his brain that helps regulate his connection, his sensation between his bladder being full and his brain saying, I need to go pee. See, if that's been knocked off because of trauma, he may not have that connection. Guess what he's requiring you to do? He's going to require you to potty train him over again. He needs the repetition. His brain needs the repetition. That means every 2 hours, you're taking him to the bathroom. You're asking him to go to the bathroom. Now, you would think for a 15-year-old, he's going to be, a little bit resistant to that. And he may be. He may be a little resistant, but that's okay. You just say, bud, let's just go try. I just don't want you to have any accidents. It's all good. Let's just go try. Just run in there and try. Just don't want to have any accidents. All right, he may be able to go 3 hours. But at some point, you're going to ask him to go to the bathroom, and he's going to go to the bathroom. And what you just did is you started teaching his brain. You can't take a child from an environment of neglect and expect them to know, to number one, know adequately. And this is one of my biggest challenges with residential treatment. One of my biggest challenges with residential treatment, and sometimes it's family stuff too, being, with families, is that we take children from these environments of absence and neglect, and we expect them to behave normally. And then for residential treatment centers, you're getting these children from these environments of absence and neglect. They've blown out of their homes. They're now being put in an institution. They're being put in an institution in a residential treatment center with staff. And you have some mindset, purely matrix behavior, that they should act normal. And not only do you have mindset that they should act normal, but there are even residential treatment centers who set up punishment based on behavior that is abnormal. Now think about that. And I always go back to, in times of stress, our thinking is confused and distorted and our short-term memory is suppressed. You have children coming from an environment of neglect, an environment of abuse, an environment of absence. Maybe you did not know this, but you do now, that these children are developmentally delayed. They are emotionally stunted. If they are in residential treatment, it's because they have been completely stressed out in their homes. And if they've been completely stressed out in the homes that they've been being raised in, that means they are still stunted. They may be older, but they are not better. That's the problem with parenting inside the matrix. All of the instruction we get from inside the matrix just stresses your children out more. And any expansion of their window of tolerance just becomes natural. It's a natural byproduct of living in a home where you get food, where you're not getting abused. Hopefully you're not getting abused, where you have a comfortable bed. So there's just some inherent regulation built inherently within the family dynamics. But if you're a child with some pretty sensitive stress reactions and some pretty serious trauma, and the family's been completely stressed out, the parents are overwhelmed and in shock, the other siblings running for their lives, then you've probably not progressed very far from the actual trauma environment you came out of. I remember when my mom and dad started raising my nephew. He's now 22 years old. 22. And they started raising him when he was 2. And he was close to 3 or so. He was still wet in the bed. And my dad's pretty old school. So my dad thought by then he should have been potty trained. And so my mom was very protective of my nephew for good reason. And they were starting to get really stressed about him not being potty trained. And I finally said, look, because then it was stressing me. I said, put a pull-up on him. Just wake him up, put him on a potty routine. If he pees the bed at night, you don't have to change any sheets. He's got a pull-up on, and just chill out. It's going to be okay. And it took a couple years. But after a couple years, he started going to the bathroom the way he was supposed to. But see, they needed that perspective from outside of the matrix. Because from inside of the matrix, even though they had struggled with my sister exhaustively, they were going to end up repeating the same patterns with my nephew, who came himself from an early trauma environment. But see, when you don't operate outside of the matrix, you don't see that you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And so in residential treatment, you've got to realize that these children are coming to you. They are coming to you developmentally delayed. They are emotionally arrested. And unless they get prolonged states of regulation, they're going to continue being stuck. Denise says, do you think they will have actions like that for a lifetime? No, I don't think. In fact, I know, Denise, I know they won't have actions. I can speak, I can be the voice for they. We will have challenges like everyone does. But these core social and emotional challenges, children can develop through quickly. And when I say quickly, I mean a matter of weeks and months. I'm not talking years. Weeks and months. When provided a consistently regulated environment, when provided consistent, secure, attuned parenting, and that doesn't mean we don't screw up, we don't get stressed out, because we do, but that's a part of creating the security, is being able to get stressed out and come back and apologize and repair and do better. When provided that consistency, that foundation, the brain can repair itself. Neuroscience has shown us that the brain can repair itself, and that's what we're doing. We're just healing the brain. The brain is healing by creating prolonged states of regulation and repetition and positive of environments. Repetition of positive relationships and positive environments is what changes the brain. The orbitofrontal cortex, your executive control center for social and emotional functioning. The executive control center for social and emotional functioning stays open for development throughout the lifespan. As long as that is the truth, as long as that is the gospel, we can always change. We can always heal. And I always go back to St. Francis. St. Francis was a criminal. He was a hardened criminal well into adulthood. And he was able to change, and he became St. Francis. So there's the disciple Paul is the same story. A murderer of Christians became the disciple Paul. There's always hope because there's always grace. You just have to have faith, and you have to have trust, and you have to have perseverance, and you have to have persistence. And above all things, you have to be able to return to love. We are human, so we oftentimes step into fear. But we just have to be able to return to love. And when you can do that, and when you can stop getting consumed with what the matrix informs you to do, which is fear-based, which is stressful, which is threatening, which is shaming, it's blaming, it's unconscious, it's reactive. That's what the matrix is all about. When you can step off that hamster wheel and start being more mindful and start being more conscious and start being more understanding and more thoughtful, and start operating with less guilt and less shame. Just start operating in a real authentic, core way with your child. You can get mad, yeah, and let your child know I'm mad. You can get stressed, we get stressed. But you've got the responsibility to pull yourself back into your window of tolerance and realize that your child still relies on you, still depends on you. So with residential treatment centers, you've got to realize that these are children. They may be 10, they may be 5, 10, 15, they may be 18 years old, but they are still children. They are still children, small children, and they have been hurt and they have not progressed, and they need you as the worker, as the care staff. They need you to love them. They need you to love them. And you've got to be able to love yourself. You've got to be able to love yourself and forgive yourself and do your own healing work. When we had our group homes, I used to take all my staff through intensives, through emotional intensives, digging into some of their deepest pain so that they could have a deeper understanding of their own pain, their own stress, their own fear, so they could develop a deep empathy and compassion for the children they were serving. Your responsibility is to love these children. If you want to be hard on a child, go be a prison, not an inmate, but whatever they're called. The prison guard. Go be a prison guard. Go be a prison guard. Go be tough on adults. But these children that come are placed in your care, these beliefs about punishing children for these behaviors that aren't normal, they're in your freaking care because they have not experienced normal lives. You should expect them to be abnormal. You should expect them to be the worst. And if you want to punish them, then you're really not doing any different than anyone else. The only thing is you've got four walls and locked doors and a lot of structure. But that's not going to heal them. They got to go back to their homes after that. So think outside of the box. Instead of taking those kind of behaviors so personally, like children, pooping their pants is the same thing, or children peeing in inappropriate places. It's the same freaking thing. The only reason the child does that is because they're stressed out. I feel like I could tell the story. I don't even know how long I've been jibber jabbering this evening. I could tell the story. I'll tell a story another time. 16-year-old who peed in the middle of the floor and how I handled it. You just got to think outside of the matrix, guys. That's all. February 1st, this Friday, a group of parents and professionals and we're departing the matrix. We're going to start the process of departing the matrix once and for all. And we will do it every single day. Every single day. 10 days. 10 days we're going to be focused on the parents, 10 days we're going to be focused on the child, and 10 days we're going to be focused on the relationship. And every single day it's going to be this 101 with a cognitive exercise, homework, motivation, inspiration, getting out of the matrix. The matrix is in here. The matrix is in here. We're going to get out of here. We're going to get into here. And lives are going to change. You can join me. I invite you to join me. After Friday, it's closed. It's closed. So I hope this has been helpful. I am looking forward to more comments from Judy. Hi, Lala. I'm looking forward to more questions from Judy for the staff. I want to help you guys as much as I can. I love all your questions and comments, guys. I need them. Otherwise, it's just me showing up here talking about experience and whatever God puts on my heart to share with you. And I'd love to do that. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing it for 125 days consistently in a row. So I'd love to do it, but I'm here for you. I'm here to lend you any support and guidance that I can. So when you have questions, I can't always address all the questions during a daily dose, but I can use them for topics for next time. So with that, Big Papa loves you. I hope you have a fantastic evening. I'm going to finish my coffee, get myself a little caffeine buzz, probably do some writing, maybe watch The Matrix, and get more inspired and motivated. Hope you lay your head down tonight. I hope your bodies relax. I hope the cells of your bodies release all the generational stress that you are now burdened with, that you carry. I hope your cells open up, and I hope it releases that, release it right back into the universe so that healing can take place. You wake up in the morning restored, refreshed, re-energized, inspired, and ready to make tomorrow terrific Tuesday. How about that? God bless you. I love you. We'll see you later.